Right. Welcome to the meeting of the Corporate Parenting Panel taking place Friday the 28th of January 2022. The meeting is broadcast live through our YouTube channel. Before we commence today's formal business, I would like to cover some housekeeping issues. Please switch off or make silent mobile phones. Keep microphones switched off unless invited to speak by the chair. When invited to speak, switch on the microphone nearest to you and introduce yourself. Adhere to social distancing and wear face masks when moving about. Where necessary, equipment will be cleaned after each use. Moving on to Part A of the agenda. Item number 1, apologies for absence.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Bell, Fletcher, Hood and Miller, and from co-opted members Alison Ferguson and Wendy Taylor.
Thank you, Jill. Right, substitute members.
We have no substitute members in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Agenda item 3, minutes of previous meeting held on the 22nd of November 2021. These are from the 22nd of November as the 17th of December Corporate Parenting Panel meeting was cancelled. Are there any, first of all, do we have an agreement that the minutes are correct? And are there any matters arising? You are right.
Thank you, Chair. I know it seems quite a while ago since the last meeting, but just to pick up on the things that are actually in the minutes. An email was sent to Anne Haig, Selwyn Morgans and Claire Morris on the 23rd of November, just passing on their thanks from the elected members in response to the feedback on the Ofsted inspections at High Etherley, Fram and Aycliffe. The Children in Care Council language document that Caitlin referred to was shared with Corporate Parenting Panel members, so you should all have that. And in addition to that, 6 monthly language updates have been added to our Corporate Parenting Panel work programme. Family time before and after pictures were shared with Councillor Miller, as he requested at that meeting. And a request was put into the Comms and Marketing team to ask them to consider issuing some more positive press and some press around fostering. And we've had confirmation this morning that that has been happening and people have seen that. The fundraising link that we were asked to share actually hit the target, so that was removed. So CJ had done an excellent job in that. The Children in Care Council newsletter should be finalised, and Rob will give us an update on that. The Art Stops project has actually launched, and I think we have 15 art stops, but again, Rob and Caitlin will pick up on that for us. And the Care Leavers Hub launch was postponed to February, and an email has gone out inviting Councillor Henderson, Councillor Simmons and Councillor Walton to the opening of that as Chair, Vice Chair and Portfolio Lead for Children. So that's progressing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jane. Right, are there any declarations of interest on today's meeting? No declarations of interest. Thank you. Agenda item 5, the number of looked after children. A verbal update from Helen Ferguson, Head of Children's Social Care, Durham County Council.
Thanks, Chair. As of this morning, the numbers of children in our care is 929 children. It's a slight increase from the last time we reported on that number two months ago, but the numbers have remained fairly stable over recent months.
Thank you, Helen. Agenda item 6, Ofsted Updates. Can I ask Helen, please, to give us the update on the Ofsted inspections?
Thanks. I'll hand over to Martin in the first instance, who'll give you an update in relation to Aycliffe Young People's Centre, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what's been happening in our community children's homes.
Thanks, Helen, and good morning, everyone. We've now got the findings published from the Aycliffe inspection that took place in November. I'm really pleased to say that Aycliffe was outstanding and continues to be outstanding, so that's really, really good news for us. A few headlines from what the inspectors found this time. So they said that children continue to enjoy warm and supportive relationships with staff, that partnership working between managers, staff and other professionals who support the children is extremely effective. It's very clear that members of staff know the children well, know how each child prefers to be supported and nurtured. As a result, children continue to make good progress because they live in this home. So that's really wonderful feedback to get. Children who are preparing to move to other homes benefit from well thought through plans which increase their chances of success. Managers and staff advocate strongly on behalf of children if they feel that placing authorities are not acting effectively. I think we know we've all had challenges because of COVID, and that's one of the things that the inspectors also looked at. They said that managers have responded to the impact of the COVID pandemic in a thoughtful and diligent manner. They have implemented plans which have ensured that any issues arising as a result of the pandemic have been dealt with effectively. Consequently, the pandemic has not compromised the consistency of care or the children's well-being and safety. So we're really, really pleased with the findings from the inspection. We did do a press release a couple of weeks ago, which you may have seen, and we've also covered within that the plans for the transitions unit. I'm really pleased to say that we've got quite a bit of funding from the DFE as well as council resources. So work to build the transitions home at the side of the centre has now actually started, and we're hoping that will be ready for September this year. So some really good progress there.
Thanks, Martin. In terms of our community homes, we've had a lot of inspection activity over the last 3 or 4 months. So I'm really pleased to be able to report that we've had really good outcomes for Coxo Children's Home, Famulgate Moor Children's Home, High Etherley Children's Home, and the feedback from inspectors generally in relation to all of those inspections has been an acknowledgement of the really high quality relationships that staff are building with children, really positive feedback from our children and young people about the care that they're receiving. There was some very particular feedback about the quality of children's rooms and how personalised they were and how much involvement our children and young people had in choosing their furnishings and decorating the rooms, etc., etc. So very, very positive feedback in relation to those homes inspections. We have been really busy in terms of recruitment of staff to our children's homes, and we've had some really successful recruitment over recent months. So we now have a new homes manager in one of our homes who's just recently passed her fit person interview with Ofsted, so that's very positive, and we have some new managers joining us very shortly. We have some really exciting developments in terms of our residential estate, which is going to include the development of a new role within each of our children's homes, a deputy manager role that we think will make a really significant difference to how we're able to continue to develop the homes and the care for our children. So that's a big piece of work over the next few weeks and months whilst we look to recruit to those posts. We've got a more detailed update on all of the developments in our residential services on the work programme at a future meeting, so I'll be able to update you further then. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Helen and Martin. It's so good to hear that we get good Ofsted reports for our work with our children. Right, agenda item 7, proud moments. A verbal update.
Chair, I've had my hand up. Could I speak, please?
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I know I'm in the corner. It's hard to see back here. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Martin and to Helen for those reports. And I think these are reports, and it's not for officers really to extol so much all of the work that's been going on. And I think it's quite easy to just go across those without making comment. And I don't want us to do that as a corporate parenting panel, because I want us to really recognise that Aycliffe Residential Secure Unit has actually done amazing work in extremely challenging times. And I think that that should be placed on record at every opportunity. During COVID, it's been even more challenging. The second thing on that is Martin mentioned the funding from the Department for Education. I think we have what I would say is an absolutely excellent project going there, which I'm looking forward to hearing more about. And I would like to, Martin, just to sort of perhaps describe a little more about the funding and the challenges that we've faced as a council in getting that funding, because this has been a project that has been in the making for some time. And it is one that I think will be absolutely valuable to the young people who are in the secure unit. And the other thing I'd like to say is it looks like the developments taking place in terms of the new posts. Excellent work to do that. But there is one thing, when Helen, you mentioned, obviously we always get a report on the number of children who are looked after. We've had a really, really good fostering campaign. And it would be helpful for me to know how that impacts. I mean, I know it must be quite difficult to extrapolate all the numbers and to look at that, because there are so many layers involved in terms of how children come into being children looked after. But as I've seen the fostering campaign unrolling, I think it's been extremely good. So I'd like a little more information about how you see that unfolding and developing, and the impact upon our children and young people. And finally, Chair, in terms of the campaign, I wondered whether we'd ever thought about developing advertising in terms of a TV campaign and how we look at that. Because I think that what we have is good, but maybe we know that we could do a little more in respect of that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you want to reply, Helen?
Shall I pick up the questions about fostering, and then perhaps Martin will come back to give a bit more information about the transitions unit. So we have got quite a number of updates about some of the work that's going on in terms of the fostering marketing campaign. So I was going to give you the details in any other business, but I'll give you it now instead, Councillor Gunn. So in terms of the television advert, that is very firmly in the making, and we are expecting to have a television advert for Durham's fostering service out in February. So we've got 2 weeks of a television advert. We've never done that before, so this is a new part of our fostering marketing campaign, and we know that we just need to continue to develop and try different things all the time in terms of getting our messages out there. So there's been a whole lot of work done to develop a film using real stories from our children and our foster carers. So you'll see that on the television in February, March time, and then there's a second week which is planned for May time. So it'll be really, we'll be able to come back to you and give you some detail about the impact of that, and how we analyse the difference that that's made, and make some decisions about whether that's something that we want to do more routinely going forward. Secondly, we've been working really closely with Councillor Henderson in terms of the boards that are outside County Hall, to make sure that we can utilise those to support the fostering marketing campaign. And that piece of work will conclude at the very beginning of February. We're expecting the boards to go up on the 9th and 10th of February with some really powerful advertising about fostering in County Durham, that will give people those messages and will be very, very visible to many people that are coming through the city of Durham. So again, that's something new that we've not done before, and we'll be able to come back to you and give you some further information as the months go by about the impact of that. And the last thing that I just was going to mention, which is very much linked, I think, to just an acknowledgement and a recognition of the fabulous work that our foster carers do. We always have an annual event to celebrate the work of our foster carers. We weren't in a position to be able to do that last year because of COVID, and we really felt that that was something that we wanted to do face to face. It wasn't something we felt would work so well across teams. So plans are progressing really well in relation to the annual Foster Carer Award for this year. That's planned for early March, and everybody will be getting an invitation to the awards ceremony, and we're planning to hold that at the Gala Theatre. So it will be a really big celebration and a real acknowledgement of the real challenges that our foster carers have faced over the last 2 years throughout COVID. You know, they do fabulous work, and obviously throughout COVID there have been long periods of time when they've been expected to homeschool the children that are in their care. There have been long periods of time where children haven't been able to go to school because of COVID and have been in the care in their foster carers' homes for lengthy periods. So that's really changed some of the dynamics and some of the challenges that our carers have faced. So we really want to do something very, very special this year to acknowledge that. So that was the final thing I just wanted to add in relation to some of the work that's going on in terms of foster carer. We did talk about making sure that we had a real strong digital presence. I think that was something that we'd raised at a previous corporate parenting panel, and hopefully people have seen far more digital presence across the county council social media platforms as well as the fostering platform. And finally, you'll see on your way out a whole range of marketing materials that we'll ask you to pick up a bag and take away with you. So you'll see that there are bright orange dog bandanas that look like this, that you might want to take away with you, and if you've got a dog yourself, you'll be able to use it for your own dog, and if you haven't got a dog, you might want to share it with your neighbours or some of your constituents. And in the bag as well is a whole range of new marketing materials which you'll have seen on some of the social media posts. So we have some specific campaigns at the moment focused on caring for children with disabilities. We have a particular need for carers who are able to look after some of our children with special needs. So you might have seen those already, and there's some marketing materials around that. You've also probably seen some of the marketing materials that are specifically targeted at our teenagers and older young people. We particularly need foster carers for some of our older young people. We have a targeted fostering campaign for our unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. And again, you might well have seen that. So we've particularly focused at the moment on carers for those young people. And the other targeted campaign that we have is around the need for carers for groups of brothers and sisters. So we absolutely are focused on working hard to keep children together with brothers and sisters where that's the right thing for them to do. You might have seen there's been a lot of coverage in the press this week of the documentary about the importance of children being able to remain with their brothers and sisters wherever that's possible to do so. So again, a targeted campaign around that as well. But I'm happy to take any questions before I hand over to Martin to pick up the other queries from Councillor Gunn.
Councillor Varty. Councillor Varty, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. It's not a question, it's a comment about the fostering. As you know, with being on this panel, I was delighted to become part of the fostering panel. And I hadn't realised quite how much that would involve. But my part of that is such a small part to the officers and the social workers and the foster carers and what they do. And it's completely opened my eyes from this side of it. As I said, I've been on the other side of it, but from this side of it, and I just wanted to say a very big thank you to everybody who's involved for the work they do, right from the bottom to the top. a big thank you, because they do so much for so many people, and the end product is absolutely wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Varty. Any more questions or comments? Right, Martin, would you like to?
Yep, thank you. And I think it's really good to see all those fostering materials, isn't it? So it's great to see that. And I'm glad you've clarified that the orange triangles are bandanas for dogs, just in case anyone wasn't sure what to do.
You should feel free to use them in any which way, Martin.
As long as it's appropriate to help to get the message across. Thank you. Just going back to Councillor Gunn's comments about the transitions home at Aycliffe, we are really pleased that we've now got the go-ahead and the sort of the building works has actually started. But yeah, it has been quite a long and complicated project. We did really start the work probably shortly after Aycliffe became outstanding in 2019, so it has taken a couple of years. There's been quite a lot of planning, designing work, and then actually looking at how we could get the funding. We were aware that DFE were last year, actually it probably was about 18 months ago, looking to make an announcement about additional funding to extend secure children's homes and transition type homes as well. And so we've been in quite some detailed discussions with them for quite a long period of time. Behind the scenes, we've been doing as much as we can without actually starting properly on the project, and also looking at how the council could support it in the event that the DFE weren't able to support it. So it is really good news that we've got the funding package in place, and actually the building works has commenced, and now we're looking at the issues about recruitment of staff, registration with Ofsted and all those other things we have to do. So it is quite a long and detailed project, and just like to thank thank the previous portfolio holder and the current portfolio holder for their support, because it has been one of those long projects that's gone over quite a period of time.
Thank you, Martin. Can I say I do not begrudge... Oh, sorry, would you like to go ahead, Councillor?
I just wanted to ask Martin, has the wing that was closed, has that been reopened yet, Martin?
Yeah, so we're currently sort of working under sort of COVID arrangements and fewer children in the centre, and obviously carefully looking at the staffing issues. I think as members are aware, we've all had challenges with staffing in the last couple of months, particularly since around Christmas time with the new variant of COVID. So we have stayed with 4 homes for now, and we will look to open the 5th home again in the centre when we feel we can. Numbers are slowly increasing again in terms of admissions. We've got a number of new staff starting with us, a group of staff starting at the end of January, and another group probably starting at the end of February. So we'll probably be reviewing it February, March time. Thanks.
Thank you, Martin. No, I don't begrudge any minute of time I spend on the fostering side of children's work, because they are so valuable to all of us. Children who've had a difficult start and turn out such good, rounded citizens. So thank you to all the officers who are involved in the work. Right, agenda item 7, proud moments. Claire should be answering this, I think, but Claire is not with us this morning, so I think Helen is going to give the report. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, Claire, at the very last minute, wasn't able to come this morning. She's not well, so I have the pleasure of sharing with you actually 3 proud moments. So the first one relates to a fabulous project that some of our children at Newley Children's Home have been involved with. You might have heard about these things before, but it's called toilet twinning. So our young people decided, they saw a programme on the television about children and families that were living in Afghanistan. And there were some children on the programme that talked about not having their own toilet and how unsafe it felt to have to go outside of their home. So they decided to raise money. They raised over £100, which allowed them to secure a toilet for a family in Afghanistan. And so this kind of toilet twinning project has been really successful and ensured the dignity and safety of children who are living in much more difficult circumstances in Afghanistan. So a really fabulous well done to everybody who donated to the project, and particularly to the young people who decided to go ahead and do something and really make it happen. So that's the first really fabulous achievement of one of our young people. The second relates to a young person who also lives in one of our children's homes, who's lived with us for a very long time, and over those years there have been a number of worries for her in relation to her safety and sometimes going missing from care, etc. She's made huge progress, and she has decided, along with the care team, that she wants to move on this year and move into a more supported living kind of arrangement. And as part of that work, she's talked a bit about looking back over the last few years and how she feels about that. And some of the things that she's reflected back is that part of the reason that she feels able to move on is that she feels loved, she feels really prepared to be able to move, she feels like she's got a family who will continue to support her, and that people have really stuck with her through those really difficult years, and now she feels really able to go on and live really much more independently and feel much more safe and able to do so. So that also feels like a really fabulous outcome for that young person. And the last thing I wanted to mention was you will be aware that some of our young people who are older young people who've been in our care previously go on then to start their own families, and our responsibilities as corporate parents extend to becoming corporate grandparents on occasion, because some of our children in care go on to have their own children. And Mamie arrived this morning having knitted some absolutely beautiful baby clothes that she's asked me to donate to one of our young people who've got their own child as a kind of corporate grandparent present. So I just wanted to let you know that on behalf of all of us, we'd really like to thank you for such a fabulous gift, and I think it says an awful lot about the way in which you all and Mamie think about the work that you do and the kind of love and care that you show to our young people. So thank you for that.
All right, agenda item 8, Children in Care Council update. Can we ask Caitlin, please, and Rob to give us the update, please?
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I've just recently been promoted to of kind of like the head of the Children in Care Council, because I go to quite a lot of these meetings, so yeah. As you're aware, the Art Stops has been up and running for a while now, and 12 care experienced young people have managed to get the art on the bus stops, and we saw some this morning on the way down, didn't we? So the way it came about, Investing in Children managed to get additional funding, and several young people attended the art care experience themselves, and they all enjoyed coming along. It's now a wellbeing cafe. It's held every Monday night. I think it's 4:30 till 6 at the Cheval Centre, and not just care experienced young people come along. There's quite a lot of people from the different areas across Durham attend, and at the minute we're developing self-portraits of themselves. So the 12 care experienced young people have been able to connect with the cafe, and Investing in Children have reached out to a local artist linked to the project for the art stops, and they've asked to keep it up for a bit longer because it's had such an amazing feedback from people. And John Hewitt, the CEO of Durham County Council, have asked for further opportunities to develop the bus stops, and you can all buy the pieces which will be displayed in which can be displayed in buildings or offices, and I feel like you should, because this is just one example of the pieces of work, and they've all worked extremely hard for it as well. Thank you, Chair.
Right. There's Rob, and then we come back to questions. Right, Robert, please.
I'm not sure I can follow that, really. Yeah, I mean, my role's been supporting it over the last few months to give young people who care experience the opportunity to connect with universities. I had 2 new young people connect with Sunderland University, and I think what they talked about was kind of the reflection on the support they've received from social workers and practitioners across Durham County Council, and I suppose to give future social workers a feel of what's going on in the county, both positive and ideas and reflections they had to improve on things for these social workers who potentially could come into the county to work. The feedback for that's amazing. The 2 young people hadn't done that before. As a result, one's really interested in getting further involved with foster panels and being part of that process, so that's really good. We've had young people working on care plans, working on language, reshaping that, really looking at, they're starting to look at pictures and kind of diagrams as a new approach for young people to have an understanding of their experiences when they're coming into care and going through care, so they'll continue to progress on that. We've also got a quite dynamic group of young people who, I know one of my colleagues, Laura's met with them last week, the younger group, who are they're really looking at identity and how children are viewed as they come into care and move through care, but as they're viewed as them as an individual, their likes, their hobbies, their interests. And I think the plan is, and they've developed a plan, that they're working with their carers, they've got guidelines, and they're using a disposable camera to develop a series of pictures and then lead that into some form of presentation, and I think they would love the opportunity to come to present to us on that. We do have ideas to align that to social workers and kind of their identity, so we're kind of looking at the possibilities of connecting that up, so there's a kind of a partnership approach to how we present that.
First of all, we just want to say thank you to Laura and Steph, because they've made Care Day actually happen this year. They're putting on a separate event in February because we're unable to do it as we've got school and college and uni. So we want to say thank you from everyone at the Children and Care Council for actually making it happen. We have managed to secure a £2,000 bid from the Key Fund. So we're going to do a separate event in April for Care Day, and we are hoping to showcase a lot of talent across the whole of care sector, which will include poems, music, photography, and we're hoping that you would all come along, because if you haven't been before, it's a really good event and it's a chance for everyone to just celebrate being in care. And there's a lot of comments that a lot of young people have said that it's changed their lives being in care and it's helped them a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, we've entered into a partnership with Newcastle University, just to give you a feel of that. Students who want to be lawyers have an opportunity to undertake a project which is called Street Law, where they can engage directly with children, young people, practitioners and adults regarding policies and procedures in regards to law. So they're working with some young people from CICC this year to try and develop a better way young people can understand the acts they're under and different sections they might be under, so they get a better understanding of that. And I think the students who came out who want to be lawyers really enjoyed meeting with the young people before Christmas, and so we're working with Newcastle University to progress that this year and hopefully have something to share probably May or June time. Yeah, we've also got a young woman from who's care experienced, who's had a very challenging start in life, but she's very committed to particularly working with the police and PCSOs regarding how they develop relationships with care experienced young people connected with CSE, child sexual exploitation. She's really committed to that. I think my proud moment for her, she's got herself a full-time job as well, and she's progressing and moving forward as a carer, which is fantastic, but she really wants to continue on the journey of kind of using the positive experience she's had from some officers to develop that better.
Because of the October half-term PMN or in session, it went really well. We're hoping to hold another one in February half-term for the PMNs to come together and connect with the younger ones, or just to hold an information event for people who don't really understand why they're in care or what the care system is, or like the different acts that they're under. So we're hoping that you are able to come along as corporate parent panel members to help support this, and to kind of do a Q&A in a sense, and so they know who you are and feel comfortable, because quite a lot of people don't know who you are and they would love to meet you, because we always talk about you at the CICCs and say that you are all engaged. So yeah, we want like them to believe us that you are actually making a change. So yeah. And then the last one is the 6th edition of the CICC newsletter is just been out. Rob circulated it at Christmas, and if you haven't read it already, it was really good. And there's a lot of proud moments in there and positive stories, and they'll be continuing to be developed this year as well. So yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll share that again, because it went out to the young people who wrote it all, so they've agreed it, so we'll circulate that again so you can all see that.
Thank you both, Caitlin and Robert. Thank you very much. Right, questions. I think first we've got Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, congratulations on your promotion. Well deserved. And my question was just, how do we go about buying these works of art? And I was really pleased to have seen one on a bus as well, and it's fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Walton, please. Oh, sorry, Councillor Rock. Yes.
I'm sure we can look at that. I suppose it's about where you want to put it, and if it can be used in a space where people can see it, because they can be purchased from the artist via me, so we can look at that.
Right, thank you. I think we now go to Councillor Walton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, Caitlin, I just want to reiterate what Cathy said there. Congratulations on that role. I'm sure every corporate parent in this room had a little burst of pride in the humble way you announced it. So I want to second that. That's really well done. And I can already see that you're settling fabulous into the role with your good sales pitch that you sneaked in. Now everybody's getting their checkbooks out. And also I'm really thrilled to see that you are taking the role serious enough that you're letting people know what we are doing. I was really pleased to hear that, and I know I'll be speaking for all of us when we say we would welcome the opportunity to be questioned and to be held to account and make sure we're doing what we need to be doing. So that's really good, so thanks for that. My question is also around the art stops, which I think, you know, it's a great project, and I think everybody's really keen to be involved with it. But I wonder, the artists, the young people whose artwork is displayed, what are their thoughts when they see it? Have you had the opportunity to get some feedback of them that you could share with us, please?
I went with one young person to go and see it, and she was honestly amazed by it. She couldn't believe that her art was actually on display, and she even took a photo of it and even tagged people in it, and the feedback has just been amazing, and it's built up quite a lot of people's confidence who don't have confidence a lot as well. So we're hoping to take the young people themselves to go and see the art, because they are quite hidden, but yeah, they've just loved seeing the art, and it's built up the confidence a lot.
That's great, thank you, Caitlin.
Right, Councillor Townsend, please.
I think you're just going to get a lot of congratulations here, Caitlin. I just wanted to say specifically congratulations on your commitment and the leadership you're showing. Lots of people have opinions about how the world could be better, but most people don't step up and actually help make that happen themselves. So you should be really proud of yourself, and I know everybody in this room is proud of you. And yes, I'm sure you'll get lots of people in this room interested in coming to your session to be... I really enjoyed the last time we came to see and actually talk to young people who've experienced care, and I for one, and I'm sure lots of us, will really grab any opportunity we have to come and talk to you again. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Councillor Gunn.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. my congratulations I'll add as well, and I won't extend that, Caitlin. I think that you do a great job, and as has been said, we're all really proud of you. That's been an extensive report from you and from Rob, which has been really interesting, a lot in it, and really interesting to know all of that work. I just have a question, because I wondered whether you had any links with the Police and Crime Commissioner for Durham and Darlington, because I'm sure that Joy Allen would be able to learn a lot from you, and I think it would be extremely useful if those links could be made for her, and perhaps for you as well, to do that. So I just wondered whether those links had been made already, but perhaps just to give it some thought. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Heather McFarlane, please.
Hello, and thank you, Caitlin, and very well done. And I think it's well deserved. I have a question for Helen. Could we use the artwork in the TV adverts?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will go and find out and come back to you.
Thank you, Heather. Right, Jane, I think it's your...
Thank you. I was just going to say I'll link with Caitlin and Rob outside the meeting to get all of the dates for the meetings and the events that they've suggested, and I'll send that in one email along with the newsletter to members.
Right, thank you. We need to note the information. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hunt. Colt. Oh, sorry, Councillor Colt.
Thank you, Chair. Bev Colt, Ashton Whittinghill Ward. Caitlin, fantastic. I'll not repeat everything, but very well done. Just a really quick question with regards to the artwork, if I may. Rob, are the digital copies available? I'm just thinking this could be a really good opportunity for us as councillors to help promote these images. I know, Caitlin, you said some of them were in hidden places, which may make it quite hard for us to find where they're at. It just would be really good if we could promote them as well, if that was possible. Thank you.
I think it was sent out in an email to you all, but I can recirculate that. All of the images were sent and details on a map of where they were located, so they've already gone, but I'll resend those.
Right, no more questions?
Sorry, Mamie, can I just add there, because it probably is helpful to send the website link out again. Helen and me have done some practitioner briefings really with about 350 of our staff, and we did use some of the images to brighten up our PowerPoint presentations, so staff did like them, so I would suggest we look to try and promote it more. And I know that it's on bus stops in Framwellgate Moor, Chester Street and Gilesgate in particular, so if you're in those areas you probably will see them. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Jane, do you want to? No, right, fine, thank you. Right, agenda item 9, the virtual school annual report. Can I ask Melanie to give her report, please?
Thank you, Councillor Simmons, and good morning, everybody else. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm not sure. Yeah. I want to present the virtual school annual report, and this annual report actually covers academic year 2020, so September 2020 to July 21. I always feel it's a little bit historic when I present this in January, but by the time it's got through all of the different committees, this is the time to present. Just to give you a bit of context about the report, at the end of the academic year 2021, we had 573 Durham looked after children of statutory school age. Now, for us, statutory school age is reception to year 11. So basically from 4.5 up to 16 years old. Then our young people then move into post-16. The virtual school hasn't got the same responsibility for post-16 as they do for our statutory education. However, Durham Virtual School, we do follow our young people into post-16 to enable that smooth transition, working alongside Durham Works. I just wanted to make everybody aware of that today. So, of that cohort of young people, 48% of those children were of primary age and 52% were of secondary age. 45.8 were female and 54.2 were male. So you can sort of see the balance there of our children that we work with. 81% of those children attended County Durham schools and 19% attended out-of-county schools. And that was an increase of 3.6% from last year, from the previous academic year. I'm highlighting that because as a local authority, as a virtual school, ideally we would like to keep all of our children in County Durham, but because of care arrangements and needs of these children, sometimes the children do have to be educated outside of the local authority. That doesn't mean that anything changes for those children. They still have a children looked after PEP caseworker, who they still have their 3 PEPs a year. The designated teachers in the schools where those children attend still, because of Teams, are able to attend our network meetings and any training we put on. So they're not at a disadvantage because they are out of county, and I just wanted to sort of raise that with everybody today. 61% attended a school with an Ofsted judgment of good or better. For some people you might think, well, you know, why don't all of our children attend a school with that Ofsted rating? And again, I'll explain that a little bit later, but some of these schools haven't been actually inspected since around about 2018. The inspection series is up and running again, and schools are being inspected at the moment. And our children, if they're in a school where there is an excellent pastoral system and we feel our children are well supported, then what we do is we just put extra scrutiny into those schools and extra support for those children if they actually requires improvement. And also we want stability for the child. So if we've got a safe, happy and settled child in a school that suddenly goes from good to requires improvement, we wouldn't necessarily want to move them out of that school, because obviously we're moving them away from their friends, we're moving them away from their school community, we're moving them away from people that really know them and have invested in them. And we would probably only ever move a child out of a school if the reason for an inadequate inspection was for safeguarding reasons. Then we would move the child out of that school. Also, a lot of these schools have academised, which means that their Ofsted rating isn't available anymore. So once they go into an academy, it works in a different way. And usually the academies that take those schools over are outstanding academies. So we've got to bear all of that in mind as well. But we very much work with the school to make sure we always have the best for our children and young people. 120, which is 19% of children and young people, attended a school with a grade of requires improvement or below. Okay, so we had none of our children were in adequate or serious measures school as it used to be in the old days. So basically, you know, we wouldn't leave children in schools, and we wouldn't support a move to a school. So if a child was moving out of an area, we certainly wouldn't look for a school unless it had a good or outstanding Ofsted rating. 125 young people attended schools where a current Ofsted judgment isn't available due to a recent academy conversion. The full report, and as I know you've all had this to look at previously before today, I've tried to summarise it into 4 slides, which is difficult, but the full report highlights how the virtual school works with education settings, social care and other agencies to support our children looked after to achieve the best outcomes for them. The body of the report also covers those who are in early years and the post-16 sector, and we have two colleagues within the virtual school who actually work within those areas. So although we don't have that statutory obligation to early years, we have an early years lead who works with us for 2 days a week. 0.4 of her time is with the virtual school to make sure that our early years children are supported, ready for transition into reception, and also those children have an electronic PEP, so that PEP moves through with them straight away into reception, so we know the need. And also the PEP now continues into post-16, so everything's held together in one central place. Just to highlight SEND, thank you, Jill, yeah, thanks. Just so everybody's aware, the virtual school, we sit in education, we don't sit within SEND and inclusion anymore. Previously, prior to me coming into role, we did sit in SEND and inclusion, but now we are part of Durham Education. So when we look at SEND, we look at it through the eyes of all of our children, but we don't take responsibilities for sort of going through the EHCP statutory process. It's the SEND and inclusion team that would do that. And just for everybody's information, all of our children who have an education and healthcare plan also have an allocated SEND caseworker. So they have a children's looked after PEP caseworker and a SEND caseworker, so that we make sure that everything is joined up and those conversations go on. So for information, 49% of Durham children looked after had an identified special educational need in 2021, an increase of 6% from 2019 to 20. Now, people may be alarmed that we've got that 6% increase, but I think it's about the proactiveness of my team, and because now we're able to, my team's extended, we have 7 caseworkers, and they're more visible in PEP meetings, so they can raise those questions about, do we think we now either need to identify this need as a SEND need, so that the child gets additional support and possibly top-up funding if the finances coming into school are not meeting the need at the moment, or do we need to progress to statutory assessment in order for the child to get that educational healthcare plan? So those conversations go on all of the time in PEP meetings, and we encourage schools to move that on as and where it needs be. So 21% of them are supported by an educational healthcare plan, and that's increased by 2% over the last 2 years. 28% had a school SEN support plan, an increase of 4% since 2019 to 20. And again, I feel that's because of those active and very focused conversations that my PEP caseworkers actually have around the table in the PEP meeting. Social, emotional and mental health issues is the primary need for 39% of primary age children and 51% of those in the secondary sector. So as a result of that, the virtual school, we use our Pupil Premium Plus funding. We give a portion of that to our schools to support the children in enrichment activities and to support progress. But we also we hold back some of that money. We hold back £535 we hold back, and we use that to buy service level agreements with a lot of the therapeutic agencies within the local authority. So we work with Full Circle, and we have a therapeutic offer to our schools. We have emotional wellbeing credits, so the emotional wellbeing team within the local authority, schools are able to access their support. We have access to an occupational therapist who can carry out assessments, and we have 0.5 time from a County Durham educational psychologist as well. So all of those are available. We also have the equivalent of 4 days a week from Durham School Counselling Service, who goes into schools and will do counselling with our children, again on a needs-be basis, and they refer in for that. And we use that funding to support all of that, primarily because of what our PEPs are telling us and what our schools are telling us about need. A challenge for Durham Virtual School is to ensure that the needs of children with an SEN support plan are known and strategies are put in place at transition points. So if we've got a child in year 6 and we feel that they're going to need enhanced transition into secondary, we would work with the primary school to try and secure top-up funding to support that enhanced transition as the child moves through into the secondary sector. And it's an area of priority on the PEP document. And it's important, if a child with an EHCP is moved out of the local authority due to their care needs, that Durham retain their plan. So we've worked with the Send and Inclusion team, and we try to retain the plan for that child until an appropriate setting has been found. So normally it's the local authority where the child lives that holds their EHCP. We are working with Send and Inclusion to make sure that that isn't released to that other local authority until we're happy and content that the child is in the right setting. Then it moves on. Every Durham child looked after with an EHCP has the identified SEND caseworker, and they would work with us to make sure that that person, that school, that provision is found. Thank you, Jill. Attendance and fixed term exclusions. Again, it's a little bit difficult the last academic year to report on that, especially attendance. In the positive light, I feel that we've reported on it in past years, and that's because of COVID. And as we all know, that our children have been off school because of COVID, but also have been subject to bubble closures. Because they fell into the vulnerable group that the government said had to attend school, if carers felt that they wanted to keep the children off school, those children then weren't awarded their attendance mark as other children were. And there was quite a bit of upset over that, and I will point that out today. And we had conversations with carers about that, and with schools, and our attendance leads within the local authority even raised it with the DFE. But unfortunately, the code meant that they were absent, so we couldn't move that. So the local overall attendance for the whole children looked after cohort was 89.3%. And that can be broken down as follows, as you can see on that slide. I will point out at this stage that at this current time, we've just got the attendance for our last term, so the autumn term, and actually it's looking much brighter. It's 93% the overall attendance for this academic year. And I think that just shows you, it just reflects that attendance of looked after children is usually very good. So our primary school children always seem to trump our secondary school children. So basically, the attendance of primary school children, including foundation year group, was 94% and 94.1% if we took the foundation year group out. Attendance of secondary school age children looked after was 84.5%, so you can see a difference there. Attendance of children looked after in County Durham schools and settings, the overall attendance was 90%, and attendance of children looked after in out of county schools and settings was 89%. So, we work with our attendance team within the local authority, and we are proactive where attendance is concerned. We'll have conversations with carers. We'll have conversations with social workers when children are not attending school, because we feel it's so important that we get them into that system and that good routine. Fixed term exclusions, now known as suspensions, the language is being changed, remain low for Durham children looked after. The academic year 2021 has seen a rise against the autumn term of 2019-20 data, and it reflects the full academic year of 5.6% of children looked after cohort who experienced a fixed term exclusion, and that represented 22 children and 18 were in the secondary sector. So a lot of that is to do with sometimes the social, emotional, mental health issues that our children have, and their and the barriers and the challenges that sometimes brings within the education setting. But we work with schools to try and avoid any permanent exclusions. Our headlines for our, thank you, Jill, our headlines for our GCSEs for 2021, again, it's a little bit difficult because these children did not sit, these young people did not sit formal exams, but you can see it's the blue column right at the end that all measures we had increases last academic year, and these were centre assessed grades where children had to produce work within their schools. The schools would obviously mark that work, and then those grades were sent off to the examination boards. So the 2021 cohort have performed well, with some young people achieving a really strong sets of results. And when I say that, sort of level 7s, 8s and 9s in some cases, and have then obviously gone on to post-16. And we're very proud of all of our young people, because, you know, some of these young people will have had educational healthcare plans, but our measures are up on all elements, so on the subjects. So our priorities for 21-22, so that's for this year. So basically, we want to continue our work with schools to support children to catch up and assure appropriate use of the COVID Recovery Fund. So there is some COVID Recovery Fund. We've got that. It came into the virtual school, and we're distributing that out to our children in schools. Appropriate curriculum access and bespoke offers when a child requires a different approach. So we work with our schools where sometimes the normal curriculum doesn't fit the needs of that particular child. In some cases, it might mean that they need to access alternative provision for 2 or possibly 3 days a week, and then have 2 or 3 days in their own school setting. In some cases, it might mean that they need to do some online work at home because they can't access school for a certain period of time. We work with the Educational and Health Needs team to make sure a child who perhaps through anxiety feels the need not to go into school, and the Educational Health Needs team will work with the child and actually support them back into that school environment. And so do my PEP caseworkers. They have very active conversations all of the time with social workers to try and ensure that our children are attending school. I will say it doesn't work for all, and some of our children, you know, are reluctant learners, but it's not for the want of trying by the virtual school. We will do everything we possibly can to get children back into school. We want to continue to work in partnership to develop clear academic and vocational pathways in preparation for adulthood, and that's where our post-16 link within the virtual school is very high profile and high priority. And we make sure that the pathway that the child chooses will meet their ability, and therefore prevent them from becoming not in education, employment or training, otherwise known as NEET. We're developing systems to support our post-16, and we've got the EPEP system for year 12 and year 13, so it has all of the information about how our young people learn, you know, their learning styles, and what support they might need when they transition into post-16. Also, as a local authority, we were very fortunate to be chosen as one of the local authorities to get the Pupil Premium Plus funding, and that's allocated to our further education colleges, so sort of our young people that have gone on to post-16, our local colleges are getting an incentive of £20 a week for their attendance, but also we have a sessional worker who's supporting attendance and working with the colleges to make sure that the needs of our children are met. So that's been really useful. It's a pilot scheme. We're all holding our breath to see whether that will continue, because in theory, Pupil Premium Plus for children that goes out to our schools ends when the child gets to year 11. We want to further raise awareness in all our schools and settings of the impact of early trauma and insecure attachments on behaviour and learning, and support our schools to review their policies and implement change. Develop our therapeutic offer to schools through our work with Full Circle. So all designated teachers have had the offer to have the training on trauma and attachment through Full Circle this academic year. And then that's going to be developed into the next financial year. It's going to be developed to more bespoke packages based on what schools are telling us that they now want for their staff. We've also introduced children, and I worked with the Children in Care Council on this, the children looked after policy that all schools now have in County Durham, so that we have sort of a consistent approach to the work that we do with our children. And governors in schools are aware of their responsibility for working with the designated teachers and making sure the right questions are asked to make sure our children are getting the correct support. We want to further strengthen our links with the Children in Care Council. We did provide some funding, and I know that they're working really well with that at the moment, and they're an amazing group of young people to work with. I love working with them. It sort of keeps me in touch with reality, and when I have my missing school moments, I know that the Children in Care Council are there, and Rob's brilliant as well. We work really closely with Rob, and he keeps us up to date with everything that's going on, so I love that part of the work that we do. We want to ensure the additions of the casework team continue to enhance our offer to our children and to our schools, and with our carers and social workers. There's something called the Clear Cut tool, which we've introduced, which we're using as a communication tool to help inform schools about the needs of children as they come into care, their understanding, the language that's used, and our caseworkers are able to complete that once a child's been in care for around about 10 weeks. Ensure a robust system is in place to increase school stability through monitoring and challenge. We don't like our children being moved. I know we can't help it if they moved 50 miles, away from Durham. We've got to look at school moves. But if possible, we like to keep our children in the setting that they're currently in. If a care placement breaks down, school is their only stability at that point. So it's so important that we maintain that stability within the school, because they're with people that know them, understand them, and love them. And, it would be another rejection, another attachment that's broken if we then move them from that school as well. So we want to contribute to an increasing integrated and joined up process with health and social care teams to provide a holistic and cohesive approach to support readiness to learn by building on the systems developed through the pandemic. And I think through the pandemic, we have all begun to work really well together, and I think we've established some really strong relationships. And I know Teams has supported that, because it's allowed us to be in lots of different places almost at the same time, because we jump from meeting to meeting, but it means we can go from health to social care, and our relationships have really built up and are really positive relationships. And we just want to, as Durham Virtual School, at the heart of everything we do are our young people, and we want to continue working in that way into this academic year, which is already a third of the way through. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. That was a very comprehensive report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Melanie? No? No questions? Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Right, we move on now to agenda item 10, Employment, Education and Training Update. It is the report of Linda Bailey, the Strategic Manager for Progression and Learning, but it's going to be presented by Stephen Crass. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Following on from Melanie's presentation, the focus of this part of the meeting is looking at the post-16 support to enable more of our care leavers to participate in education, employment and training. The report that has been tabled identifies and highlights a number of measures that support young people and enables Durham County Council to fulfil its responsibilities as corporate parent. The areas that I wanted to highlight this morning include the support that's provided from year 11 around transition into post-16 learning through our Durham Works programme for schools. Also to highlight the continuing support that's provided post-16 through, as Melanie mentioned, the Durham Works programme. Also, another service that care leavers can access, Durham Enable, and also to look at some more general support that has been provided to help young people whose employment prospects have been adversely affected by the pandemic in County Durham. The report also mentions the measures that are in place for Durham County Council to support opportunities within the local authority, employment opportunities, and also the report mentions the Pupil Premium Plus pilot scheme, which Melanie has already discussed this morning. So to begin, in terms of the transition support, as well as all of the support provided in relation to academic attainment, there are other measures in place to support children who are looked after during Key Stage 4, aged 15 to 16, and that's through our Durham Works programme for schools. This is a new programme. It's part of a broader European funded programme, and in particular the emphasis of the programme is to support those students, those pupils who are identified as being at risk of not making a successful transition. However, as part of that, we have extended that support to ensure that all children who are looked after can be part of that programme. And this enables them to be able to access support, individual careers guidance with their progression advisor. They also have the opportunity to access group-based activities as well, which are very much focused on leaving school and preparing for the world of work, as well as intensive mentoring support for those who are identified as being more at risk of not making a successful progression. And our progression advisors also attend the PEP reviews as well, so that there is a joined up transition support package for children who are looked after. Just in terms of just to provide some detail around the scope and the scale of this particular programme, during the academic year 2020 and 21, which is the first year that the programme operated, we engaged a total of 800 pupils in year 11 for that. I have to say it was particularly, with all of the disruption to education, it was a particularly challenging year to launch a new programme, of which a lot of the activities were very much originally designed to be delivered in school on a face-to-face basis. However, we did adapt our support delivery. We increased the intensive mentoring support, and we did that in a number of ways, including virtual as well. And the initial data shows that there were, of that overall 800 pupils, 34 were identified as children who were looked after, and in terms of destinations, 82.4% have progressed into positive education, employment or training destination. What I would say is that we will be getting some final data on that imminently. That's gathered as part of the local authorities' annual activity survey, which essentially tracks the destinations of Year 11 school leavers and reports upon what they are doing on the 1st of November each year, and that data is being submitted to the Department for Education now. Melanie mentioned the Durham Works programme. So for all of the care leavers post-16, they are eligible for support through our Durham Works programme, which is a programme very much focused on supporting young people who are not in education, employment or training. But as part of the overall programme, we do sort of maintain that support for care leavers. So that, again, they can receive what we term wraparound support from a specialist progression advisor. And they also have the opportunity to undertake bespoke activities to prepare and motivate them ready for finding their way into employment. And also as part of the programme, we were operating a Durham Works grant as an incentive for smaller and medium sized employers to encourage them to employ young people, including care leavers as well. And since its inception, just some information there, 664 young people who identified themselves as being either a child who was looked after or a care leaver, engaged in the programme, and of those 478 completed it, with 354 progressing into a positive education, employment or training destination. And also to highlight, as part of the Durham Works programme, we work very closely with the Young People's Service, and there are monthly clinics to identify and look at what steps and what additional support's needed to support those who are not in education, employment or training to progress into a positive destination. I mentioned earlier about some other programmes that are available, including one which has recently started, which is Durham Enable. And this is a new supported employment service for those who are aged 18 and above, who have learning, physical and or mental health barriers to employment. The overall, the programme is running between February 2021 and December 2023, and the overall aim is to support 900 County Durham residents who are eligible for the programme. Initial information shows that there are currently 69 participants supported, 5 of whom are care leavers, and 21 of the 69 have been supported into an employment destination, including one care leaver. But obviously, as that programme develops, we'll be able to provide further information in terms of the positive impact that it's making. Obviously, Durham County Council is a major employment employer in the county, and as a corporate parent has an opportunity to provide positive progression opportunities for our care leavers. And the report highlights a new sessional employment programme, and this essentially offers care leavers the opportunity of undertaking a paid work experience placement based upon their talents, interests and aspirations. There is a sessional employment coordinator who's been recently appointed, and a plan has been in place to identify and then fill those opportunities. And as the report highlights, 9 care leavers have been engaged onto the programme and are being supported to find an appropriate placement. And as well as sort of obviously providing a route way in for care leavers who are unemployed, it also, for example, can provide some much needed work experience for example, further education college students who is perhaps lacking some work experience and would benefit from being in an employment opportunity for a period of time. In close relationships are being developed with one of our local colleges where a couple of their appropriate, for example, construction students will be able to come in and undertake a work placement which will benefit them in terms of their study and add value to it, but it will also help prepare them for their future employment as well. The report also highlights some sort of national government schemes which we had taken advantage of in County Durham. For example, the Kickstart scheme, which was very much brought into being as in response to the potential negative economic impact of COVID-19, and provides 6 months employment for unemployed 16 to 24-year-olds who are claiming universal credit. So through Durham Works we established a gateway which allowed smaller employers to be able to take advantage of this programme, and also Durham County Council, we identified a number of opportunities across all services to offer opportunities for young people. And it was agreed that as part of this, a number of those would be ring-fenced specifically for care leavers, and 2 of those opportunities were filled, and a further 4 care leavers also successfully obtained work placements within the council, although they were not they were non-ring-fenced opportunities, so they did manage to find an opportunity through the Kickstart programme. Also, of course, we on an annual basis there are a number of apprenticeships that are offered and advertised widely, and a number of those are specifically ring-fenced for care leavers. What I would say is, of course, the impact of COVID-19 did reduce the number of apprenticeship opportunities that the Durham County Council advertised in the last year, and as such, therefore the proportion that were ring-fenced for care leavers reduced in line with that. However, we're all hopeful that those numbers will increase this year, and that information will come out around sort of spring term, which will provide potential opportunities for care leavers. And I know that there's a lot of support through the Durham Works programme to help prepare young people applying for those apprenticeship opportunities. So a lot of support is provided in terms of their applications, in terms of preparing them for their interviews, so that they have the best chance of being successful as well. Just briefly to highlight a couple of other measures that are available in the county. Durham Works has been working very closely with the Department for Work and Pensions to establish what are called youth hubs. Now these are very much aimed at supporting unemployed young people to provide intensive support and help them to get into employment. And the idea is that they are set up to look and feel different to, for example, a job centre plus premises. So the more young person friendly, and it brings together a range of different partners, including learning providers, further education colleges, obviously Job Centre Plus, youth coaches, Durham Works staff, to give that holistic support. We currently have 2 youth hubs operating in Stanley. So in Stanley, it's part of the Carbon Homes community hub on the Front Street, and also a youth hub has been established in Peterlee as well. And we've got exciting plans to open another youth hub in the marketplace in Bishop Auckland, and those a lot of work's taking place at the moment. And the report there states that the planned openings January, February 2022. Fingers crossed by the end of February, possibly the beginning of March, we'll hopefully have some very positive news on that, and it will be a much needed resource for young people in the area. A number of other activities have been done to in terms of opportunities within Durham County Council, including briefing sessions for team leaders and managers, and as part of that, support is provided. So if an opportunity is available within a service area within the council, then support is sort of in-work support is provided, so that those managers can feel more comfortable about being able to manage any particular issues that might arise, that they know that they've got a team that they can draw upon to help them with that as well. And obviously, in terms of the recruitment policy we have in place, our sort of recruitment outlines our responsibility as a corporate parent, and also the guarantee that providing them meet the essential criteria for an advertised post, then they are guaranteed an interview. I won't sort of mention the Pupil Premium Plus pilot, because Melanie's already done that as part of her presentation. So I'll just briefly finish by talking a little bit about the performance data that is included in the report, as well as a couple of priorities. Apologies, because I think data around participation in education, employment and training is very confusing at the best of times. So what the report includes is 2 sets of data. The first set is very much around young 16 and 17-year-olds, and this is the information that the Department for Education collects on a monthly basis and publishes, and they are very much interested in 2 broad measures. One is the proportion of young people who are not in education, employment or training, and the proportion whose current destinations are not known. The data in this report relates to June, and it's a comparison from 2019 to 2021. And there has, as you can see, been some fluctuation within the information there. I think it's fair to assume that some of that is reflected in some of the changes that we have witnessed as a result of COVID-19, because I think before the pandemic, the data has shown a positive trend in terms of the comparison, for example, between 2019 into 2020, but then there's been a slight rebound between 2020 and 2021. What I would say, when you look at smaller cohorts of young people as well, sometimes the sort of the percentages can look quite scary. However, the number of young people that are impacted, for example, if looking at the proportion of young people who were NEET in June 2020 and then looking at the proportion in 2021, the changes in NEET there accounts for sort of two young people. Now, obviously, that's two young people too many, but it's just to provide a little bit of balance to what some of the data there is shown. But it also highlights the further work that's required, as well as the support that is very important, that has been provided and outlined this morning. The second table in the report is part of the, again, published by the Department for Education, and this looks at the age cohorts 17 to 18 and 19 to 21-year-olds, and the way that data is collected is a little bit different to the data that I mentioned previously. But again, in the report it shows information from 2018, 19 and 2020, which is the at the time that the report was written, was the latest available information on that measure. So I'll just very briefly mention some a couple of priorities just to finish off. I think one of the key things is to continue to do the work with senior managers in Durham County Council. We have the pathway for our young people, and highlighting some of the support and some of the opportunities that are available within Durham County Council, and making the most of those is obviously going to be a key priority moving forward. And the other area that I just wanted to finish on was just to explain that from this month to the end of December 2023, we have some new programmes which are being delivered by Durham Works, and care leavers are absolutely a priority within those programmes. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen, for a very detailed report. Are there any questions for Stephen? Right. Councillor Walton, please.
Thank you, Stephen. That was very detailed and lots of information for us to take on board. Just a couple of, one of them really is more of an operational curiosity. I'm going to ask you a question. You mentioned that one of the schemes that you brought in obviously had to be adapted quite a lot because of what happened through COVID, but looking at the results, it's actually been successful even though you've had to adopt it. So I'm just curious, moving forward, as restrictions start to ease, are you going to stay with your adapted version, or are you going to do a bit of a hybrid of the two? I've got one more question as well. Well, it's more of a comment. You were mentioning about the barriers, and this is for getting children in care to be interviewed and kind of part of the working at the council. It's really good to see that that's being addressed, because although that was mentioned at a meeting a few months ago when we met with the children in care after, there was obviously a little bit of a disjointed thing. So it's great that that's being pulled together. Obviously, you mentioned in here that the managers have received some training on how to engage with that in case they felt ill-equipped. I just wondered, what would be reasons that they would feel ill-equipped, specifically because it was care leavers, and is the training that they're being given now, is the feedback good, that they're feeling more confident? It's just, I feel that they are really a key to the success of that programme working well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions. In answer to the first question, yes, absolutely. I think that sort of hybrid approach will definitely be sort of part of the programme. So, whereby obviously we'll look to engage with the pupils on school premises where we can. We also now have a good understanding that we can engage with them in other ways, and also by doing that build stronger links with sort of their parents as well, which is a crucial support mechanism to help move forward. With regards to your second question, I think it's sort of the idea is for managers to have an understanding that if they employ a care leaver, and if the care leaver has some support needs or some issues arise which could potentially impact upon how they perform their role, their job, that they know who they can bring in to help support that care leaver with that issue. I think prior to that, I think there was perhaps some concern from managers that they thought, oh, we understand that, you know, we have to make adjustments, reasonable adjustments to take into account some of to help the care leaver overcome some of those barriers, but perhaps some concern that if some issues arose and they felt a little bit out of their depth in terms of being able to deal with them, it's about providing reassurance and saying there are key people here, and they're in touch with the young person, and you can get in touch as well and draw in that support. It's really about joining the dots and making sure that they're not sort of feel isolated and potentially having to deal with some complex issues when there is actually support available to help them with that.
Thank you. That's really good to hear, because, like I said, the employers are the key to it, so it's really good that we're addressing that. Thank you.
Councillor Hunt, a question.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Wantlon already addressed it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Denali, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is kind of based around something that Melanie had mentioned, but also following on to young people who are accessing further education. Obviously, in the Melanie's report, it said that 50%, well, almost 50% of children have additional needs. And then going from the data, some of the children may not have achieved their English and maths by the time they've left secondary school. So for those children, if they've got an education healthcare plan in place, they'll have that up until they're 25. What will happen to those children who need to continue to access education, further education, to get their basic GCSEs or their functional skills qualifications after the age of 19? What support's given to ensure that they have financial stability to enable them to stay in education, to get those qualifications in order then to be able to enter work?
Thank you for the question. There is funding available in terms of if they haven't achieved a certain levels in terms of, for example, their English and their maths, then their education will be fully funded through the government's sort of what's called, obviously, the government's adult education funding stream, which obviously further education colleges deliver on, and Durham County Council delivers on through our Durham Learn provision. The support in terms of their finance, I think it's that crucial thing. And if they are sort of 19 and above, then through the Durham Works programmes, they still will receive that support to help them into sort of employment outcomes, because the support of those programs are up to 25 as well. So if they, for example, are not in education, employment or training, then support can be provided with them up to the age of 25 to help them get into employment-based opportunities. If they haven't achieved their sort of levels in English and maths, they can access that without cost through, as I said, the sort of adult education funding that is available for them. Hopefully, I'm hoping I've answered your question there. But if not, I'll see anyway.
Could I just ask, would that then also support them with living costs? The only reason why I ask that is because I'm a parent of a child who has an education healthcare plan. Well, he's a young person now, he's 20. He's still accessing education for his GCSEs. And in terms of accessing the benefit system, because he's in further education, he was told he wasn't allowed to. And I'm just wondering if there's any support there for care leavers to then support them with their financial living arrangements.
If I may, I'll in terms of the 19 plus and that age range, if I may, I'll go away and speak to some colleagues and get that information for you. Off the top of my head, I'm not aware of there being provision with regards to their living costs if there are, for example, but whether there's support that's available through, for example, hardship fund or whatnot, you know, but rather than sort of trying to guess, I think what I'll do is, if it's okay, I'll go away and look at that particular age range in terms of their living support costs.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Gunn, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your report, Stephen. A very comprehensive report. I think that, all of us are aware that employment is absolutely crucial for our young people in an area that has been described as the worst in terms of employment opportunities. I think that I just want to focus a little on Durham Works, because this has been a programme that has been hugely successful. For many years, this council has been running this programme, and I'm really pleased to hear about the programme for schools and for care leavers, the care leavers programme, and note that wraparound support that you were talking about, and also the lots of support that there's available through Durham Works for opportunities for young people to have advice and support in making applications for jobs and for job interviews. I think this is absolutely vital, but I have some concern because Durham Works has always been a European funded project, and I'm just asking the question about how hopeful we are around the future for that funding. This is a project that is so absolutely crucial for our young people across the board. These projects for our care leavers, this support for getting our young people into employment opportunities and thereby making their future life chances much more of a success, are crucial for us. So is there some light here about how Durham Works funding will continue at a later date? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colt, please. Sorry? Oh, sorry, Stephen.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if just to sort of answer that question.
Sorry.
The current programmes that highlighted, which have sort of started this month, they are funded up to the end of December 2023. We have another programme which has just started, which is funded by a separate organisation called the Youth Futures Fund, and that is not European funded, and it's very much it's a program which was set up whereby what was dormant money in bank accounts is being recycled and put to more beneficial use, and we were successful in receiving some money for that, and we've started a program called Durham Futures, and this is very much targeted at young people who potentially fall through the gaps and whose needs are maybe not fully met by some of the other provision that's available for them, and it's very target based. Now, potentially the funding for that may extend beyond December 2023. We're seeing how the sort of evaluation goes as that programme rolls out. What we are waiting to see is further detail, obviously, in terms of the replacement for the European funding through the UK Prosperity Fund, and not just in relation to ourselves, but more broadly around sort of regeneration, etc. So I think we're always hopeful that having sort of introduced Durham Works and done a lot of work in terms of promoting the brand, and all of the evidence that we're gathering through the delivery of our current programmes, and the positive impact that's been made, so that when it comes to making future bids, that we have some robust evidence which we hope will be successful.
Thank you, Stephen. Councillor Colt, please, your question.
Thank you, Chair. Stephen, thank you for the report, and it's great to see there's so many positives in there. Stephen, if I may, I've just got one question around item number 28 on page 96, and it's the table with regards to the 17, 18, 19, 21. Can you just confirm that we're missing the not known from that data, and am I right on that? And just, if I am right, I think we've potentially got a little bit of an issue with regards to getting data or responses back from children predominantly in the 19 to 21 age range. And if that is the case, please correct me if I'm wrong, but if that's the case, I'm just wondering what more we can do as a county to try and get that information from those young people. Thanks.
Thank you for that, and I'll see if it's a different data set, so I will go back to the original source just to check whether that information was actually published by the Department for Education into that particular data. I don't want to get too technical, but the data on table 28 is information which is gathered and looks at the destinations of those care leavers 17 to 18, 19 to 21 year olds at the time of their birthday, at the point at which that data is collected. The table prior to that, in terms of paragraph 24, is very much a rolling sort of destinations that are collected on an ongoing basis, and it's a snapshot of the picture at the end of June. You're absolutely right in terms of the issue around young people whose current destination is not known. Just in general terms, we find as young people get older, trying to sort of keep a handle in terms of what they are doing does become a lot trickier, and obviously with regards to when we're starting to look at sort of 19 to 21 year olds, and as they are sort of making their way in the world, perhaps feel sort of less or more reluctant to inform and update in terms of what they're currently doing at that particular point in time. But it's something that we do talk about all of the time, and obviously again from this morning's meeting I'll take that away and look at that further with colleagues to see if there are other things that can be done.
Thank you, Stephen. No more questions? Thank you. Right, can we move on to agenda item 11? The performance report. The report of the Corporate Equality and Strategic Manager, Durham County Council. Do we have a report? Sorry?
Just for information only.
Oh, right, sorry, that was for information only. Right, agenda item 12, Durham Safeguarding Children Partnership. Children looked after, update, report of the independent chair, Durham Strategic Children's Partnership.
That's for information only.
And that one is for information only. Thank you very much. Right, now, agenda item 13. I haven't been given any other reports, any other questions, so thank you everyone for attending the meeting. Oh, can I just say Claire was going to share the fostering services, marketing and promotional resources, but Martin has arranged them outside, so we have got that material. Thank you, Martin. Right, so that is the end of part A. We will wait a while the transmission service is disconnected before we move into part B.